Welcome to part 3 of our Dragon Ball series. As is usual, if this is your first encounter with my channel, parts 1 and 2 will be linked in the description and the pinned comment. But with that said, I did make an attempt to keep each video self-contained in its own way. This is Dragon Ball Zeta, which is just Dragon Ball as you know it, but more character driven, giving the Dragon Ball cast a few extra layers here and there. So grab a snack, grab a drink, and enjoy the show.
I'm so proud of you, Trunks. I'm just glad this all amounted to something.
I couldn't have done it without you, Mom.
We can finally get back to rebuilding.
Now hold on! You can't just pop back without telling me what went down in the past. I have to know now.
We defeated Cell. We solved the android problem, too. One of them even developed a relationship with Vegeta, of all people.
Vegeta, huh? I had no idea he was capable of any of that stuff.
We got past it with minimal casualties, and you and Dad have another kid on the way. Right behind me by about a year.
Really? That's wonderful! So, it seems like everything's gonna be alright then. Was I happy?
Yeah, when you weren't yelling at him. At least I'll get to be a kid in that timeline.
Come on. It's time we started picking up the pieces.
Future Trunks would have an interesting time in the aftermath of the android conflict, in that he'd have a lot of work to do being the sole defender of Earth. Also, future Bulma would have an interesting time learning about the past from her son. But we'll be coming back to these two characters later on. If you know, you know. The death of Perfect Cell, of course, ushers in about 7 years of peace, but remember this is the Zeta timeline. Basically, as a result of being married to Bulma, Goku would end up coming back to life. And he would be there during the 7 years of peace as well as the early Buu Saga. But we'll get into that later because there is a stretch of the story I feel like we really need to cover. The thing about Dragon Ball is that sometimes it focused too much on these crazy world-ending threats that kept escalating in power each saga, and it never took a lot of time to slow down and have a lot of slice of life content with the cast. So first, let's get caught up with everybody to see what they're doing. Goku and Bulma are of course living at Capsule Corp, and in the years since the fight with Cell, they've had another son, Goten. And let me tell you, we're gonna have some fun with him in this continuity. After all, Goten is the most naturally talented of all the Saiyans. With Goku alive and training him from day one, Goten becomes a Super Saiyan even earlier than he does in canon, and by the time Trunks catches up and manages to attain the form, Goten's already been there for a few years and Goku's helping him get towards Super Saiyan 2. He's not quite there yet, but he's close. Meanwhile, Yamcha is absolutely thriving. He's the greatest baseball player of all time, raking in ridiculous zenny from endorsement deals and contract bonuses. He's retired from fighting, but he's carved out a niche for himself because he's just so far above the average athlete. Piccolo would probably live somewhere outside of West City, but he'd mainly be hanging around Capsule Corp as a babysitter essentially, like he is in Dragon Ball Superhero. If he's not training, he's keeping an eye on Goten and Trunks. Krillin and Chi-Chi have settled down in West City. Krillin works as a police officer, while I can imagine Chi-Chi running a self-defense dojo that'd be really popular with women or something like that. That just seems like something she would do to make money in her spare time, along with being a mother. Their daughter Marin has taken an interest in wrestling, and coupled with her parents' martial arts background, she's really good at it. I also think Vegeta and 18, or Lazuli, would have settled in West City at some point. They'd likely live in a high-rise apartment just outside of Capsule Corp, mainly because Vegeta wants to be close by so he can fight Goku whenever he wants. I gave them a daughter, and her name is going to be Pepper, and I know Vegeta and Lazuli would probably argue about that for a while, eventually settling on Pepper because it could pass as both a human name and a Saiyan name. Personality-wise, I think Pepper would split the difference between her parents, and she'd have 18's confidence and quick wit, coupled with Vegeta's intensity and work ethic. To keep them out of trouble, Bulma likely would have given them jobs at Capsule Corp. Vegeta is the security chief, and Lazuli is chief admin. Vegeta focuses on training the security recruits to use Ki and to fight, while Lazuli focuses on recruiting and scouting people for Vegeta to train. Yeah, Vegeta would be this brutal drill sergeant of an instructor, but every once in a while he'd get a recruit that he actually respects. A little bit. As for Android 17, or Lapis, now that he's mellowed out a bit, he's, living the chill life on his island, but he drops in to visit Vegeta and Lazuli every now and then, and Vegeta ends up getting a secondary training partner out of this. Now Gohan, being heavily influenced by the Ginyu Force, would of course be a superhero based out of West City. You'd also of course have Bulma make him a costume, but this time the scene's a bit more tender and personal since Bulma's his mom now.
Hey, Mom. Can you do me a favor?
What do you need, Gohan?
Well, I want to help people, regular people. But there haven't been any big monsters like Cell as of late. Can you make me a costume so I can fight crime? Without all the extra attention?
Oh, that's so cute. What kind of superhero are you thinking of? More Superman or Super Sentai?
Super Sentai Gohan. That's cool, I guess.
Is there any particular color scheme you had in mind?
How about some red and green? Contrasting colors.
Green and red, huh? I'll have to balance it so you don't look like a Christmas elf. I'm gonna get right to work on that for you, sweetie. This is actually a lot more productive than just training 24/7. I'm proud of you, Gohan.
Speaking of productive, where's Dad? It's been a few days since I've seen him.
Your father's doing some stupid, dangerous training on the bottom of the ocean with Vegeta. Oh, sweetie, would you mind writing your measurements for me on a sticky note? I'll be done with your costume later this week.
Since Gohan is Bulma's son, he's more naturally academically talented, so he's probably not even going to school anymore. In fact, he's probably being set up as the next CEO of Capsule Corp, and he probably spends a lot of his spare time in the lab with Bulma helping her build stuff. This in turn means that Gohan doesn't meet Videl in the same way, but I still want them to meet because 1, I like Videl, but 2, I think it would still happen because Gohan would still probably become a superhero. They'd meet because Videl would eventually hear about the Golden Fighter from West City and make some logical deductions, possibly even linking the footage of the Golden Fighter to the footage of Goku at the Cell games, noting the physical resemblance between the two of them. Remember, Videl has some actual investigative talent, so she'd carve out a bit of time to go to West City and investigate the Golden Fighter. Gohan would still become the Great Saiyaman because he thinks that his Super Saiyan transformation isn't a good enough disguise to be a hero with.
You there! Hold on a minute. I'm Videl Satan, and I have questions for you.
And I am the Great Saiyaman. What would you ask of me, Miss Videl?
I'm looking for information on this guy, the Golden Fighter.
Ah, I see, the Golden Fighter. I too have heard of his exploits, but I've yet to meet the man face to face. What makes the top crime fighter of Satan City so interested in him?
I believe he's connected to the people who showed up at the Cell game 7 years ago, especially this one. They look so much alike. They might even be related.
Ah, that's quite a theory. Well, you have your work cut out for you, Miss Videl.
Just call me Videl. By the way, I've been meaning to ask. You have similar powers to the Golden Fighter. Is that something you could teach someone? I'd like to learn some new things before I track him down.
Well, of course. I always yearn to pass on the spirit of justice to all who are willing to learn.
Well, all right. Here's a communicator so we can stay in touch. I look forward to learning from you, Great Saiyaman.
Oh, what the hell was I thinking? Now she's gonna figure out who I am!
Now, Gohan ends up having to thread the needle and play lots of tricks to keep Videl from figuring out who he is. I can imagine Gohan asking Goku to dress up as the Great Saiyaman while Gohan appears at the same time as the Golden Fighter to keep Videl off of his trail. And you know Goku would be down for this. He's always down to clown.
Thanks for the help, Great Saiyaman.
And I thank you as well, Golden Fighter.
We also still get that stretch of the story where Gohan is teaching Videl how to use Ki and fly, but now there's this extra comedy layer of Gohan trying to teach her without accidentally revealing too much about who he is and all of his multiple secret identities.
So, Saiyaman, I saw you meet with the Golden Fighter in South City. What was he like?
Yes, I finally had the pleasure of meeting him face to face. He is a man of few words, but I can sense that he has a strong devotion to justice.
I see. So, I was going over some of the footage of you two stopping that bank robbery, and I'm curious now. You two have very similar abilities and fighting styles. Where did you learn to fight? Do you think you had the same teacher as the Golden Fighter?
Well, I happen to take my martial arts techniques from a variety of styles.
So, is one of them the turtle style? Some of your strikes are reminiscent of Son Goku from a few world tournaments ago.
Yes, actually. I am an admirer of his technique. I too have studied footage of his matches.
Interesting. I suppose that the Golden Fighter has a similar interest in vintage world tournament footage. How did you two manage to fire beams from your hands like that? I know Son Goku and Jackie Chun use that ability. I'm convinced that it's a martial arts technique and not just some kind of weird superpower.
That, my friend, is a matter of ki manipulation. Your internal energy can be projected outward if you have enough of it.
Then, can you teach me to do that too?
That I can. It will allow you to better fight crime and uphold justice. Let's start with the basics.
Eventually, Gohan would have to give up the charade and come clean about who he is, because he actually enjoys hanging out with Videl and teaching her how to use ki. He wouldn't want to lose the friendship he's developed with her over a lie, basically.
Hey, Saiyaman, is the Golden Fighter gonna be here soon?
Well, about that. We're one and the same. I'm sorry for keeping this from you, but my family is under the spotlight enough as is. The last thing I need is people figuring out who I actually am.
So what, you're just both? How did you manage that bank robbery and the...
Now you have to promise me you won't tell anyone about this. It'd cause massive problems for my family.
I promise I won't say anything. I know why heroes usually have secret identities.
My name is Gohan, and Son Goku is my father. My mother is Bulma Breeze.
Wow, really? I was suspicious that you were connected to Son Goku, but not like this. So, how did you manage to be the Golden Fighter and Great Saiyaman at the same time?
Oh, well, I had my dad fill in as Great Saiyaman from time to time to keep you off my trail. Sorry, but the last thing my mom needs is for her son to be revealed as a superhero. We get enough paparazzi attention as is.
Well, Gohan, I look forward to getting to know the real you. Next time, I'll be stopping by Capsule Corp so we can continue training. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
And there's your dose of slice of life Dragon Ball content. And as fun as that can be, there is a looming, very dangerous, very pink threat on the horizon. As for how Buu comes to be, it would still happen, as Yamu, Spopovich, and the Supreme Kai would still show up around the same time, if not slightly earlier due to there being more Super Saiyans around for Buu to absorb ambient energy from. I'm led to believe that they would manage to get the energy for Buu's awakening one way or another. This is because remember that Supreme Kai wanted Yamu and Spopovich to absorb Gohan's energy so he in turn could track them to Babidi's spaceship. It's not a matter of if this happens so much as a when. Goku surviving the Cell games means that there's no immediate access to Super Saiyan 3. This makes the front half of the Buu saga a lot more dangerous for everybody. However, this is clearly temporary, as Dragon Ball Daima has showed us that you don't need to be dead to develop the Super Saiyan 3 transformation. Goku being in the afterlife just gave him access to the form earlier than he otherwise would have gotten it. Another big change is that without Goku's death, the Majin Vegeta incident never happens. In this timeline, Goku and Vegeta have been training together for 7 years, and that's kind of kept Vegeta grounded. While Vegeta's still prideful and frustrated that Goku managed to become a Super Saiyan 2 first, Vegeta isn't desperate enough to accept Babidi's power. He'd see that as an insult rather than a solution. Cause Vegeta would be stronger, he's much closer to Super Saiyan 2, so it's just the usual case of Goku beating him to the punch. His whole Majin crash out was because of the 7 years he spent working hard, and then seeing Goku just completely blew him out of the water in terms of power. They're a lot closer in strength in this continuity. Anyway, let's assume that Yamu and Spopovich zero in on Gohan since he's currently the strongest Z fighter, even though he's a little bit rusty. But not as rusty as he is in canon, because keep in mind, Goku's alive to make sure he keeps up with his training. Either way, he gets ambushed, they take his energy, and the Z fighters chase Yamu and Spopovich to Babidi's spaceship. This battle would play out a little bit differently. Because Babidi's manipulation fails to work on Vegeta, he has to draw out the fights between Gohan, Goku, Vegeta, and then his minions, because his attempt to drive the wedge between Goku and Vegeta larger fails. So, for example, with Goku versus Yakon, Babidi has to put his thumb on the scale of that fight, you know, move it around, change the conditions of wherever they're fighting, maybe put it on the bottom of the ocean or something. With Vegeta and Pui Pui, Babidi has to psychically attack Vegeta while Pui Pui is also attacking Vegeta to make that fight more difficult and draw it out so he can draw more energy from it. And since Dabura is Babidi's strongest fighter, he tells Dabura specifically to drag out his fight with Gohan and play defensively. By the end of the 3 fights, the collected energy from these 6 high-level sources is enough to revive Buu. And the problem arises when you realize that Goku, Gohan, and Vegeta have used most of their stamina during these fights, and now they've got an awakened Majin Buu to deal with. Gohan, who's probably feeling himself after he beat Dabura, probably underestimates Buu and nearly gets killed by him, just as he does in canon. As a result, Goku has to grab everybody and teleport them to the lookout and figure out what they're going to do next. Here, Supreme Kai briefs them on the story of Majin Buu and what they're up against. Given Buu's rampage, Supreme Kai asks what resources they have, and the hyperbolic time chamber is suggested. Gohan, being the strongest, is actually taken to the Kai's world to train with the Z-Sword, while Goku and Vegeta work in the time chamber to get Vegeta up to Super Saiyan 2. As for Buu, he'd eventually question why he's even following Babidi's orders. So, of course, Babidi gets his head caved in. About a day later, Goku and Vegeta emerge from the chamber. Vegeta's a Super Saiyan 2, while Goku has secretly unlocked Super Saiyan 3.
Hey, yo, what the f***?
However, Super Saiyan 3 is a new transformation for Goku, and it drains his stamina so quickly, so basically it's borderline unusable right now. However, seeing the devastation that Buu has wrought on the planet, Goku decides to challenge him and take a shot. And while Goku, as a Super Saiyan 3, is stronger than Majin Buu, he underestimates Buu's regenerative powers and is forced to retreat after exhausting himself. Now, Super Buu would still come into being because Mr. Satan and the dog that he finds, they'd still eventually make their way to Buu because Mr. Satan is straight up looking for Buu. Eventually, Buu's evil side gets tired of being held back and separates and consumes Majin Buu, or Good Buu in this case. The Z fighters on the lookout, they sense Buu transforming, so Goku contacts King Kai and then travels to Supreme Kai's world where he sees Gohan's growth, but he realizes that it's not enough to defeat Super Buu. When Supreme Kai hears that Buu is transformed again, he tells Gohan and Goku to go into the time chamber with the Z-Sword and train as much as possible while they work on other solutions. And in their intense training, they of course accidentally break the Z-Sword. This leads to Elder Kai coming out and giving Gohan the boost, the ultimate transformation. They come out of the chamber and they send Gohan to go fight Super Buu. However, while Gohan is stronger than Super Buu, he doesn't realize how much smarter and more tactical Super Buu actually is. So I think he would still get absorbed. This forces the Supreme Kai to reveal the Patara earrings and give them to Goku and Vegeta so they can go get the win. As expected, Vegeta beats Buu to a pulp and intentionally gets absorbed to start ripping out the absorbed personalities that Buu has accumulated, which of course naturally leads to the Kid Buu form. Kid Buu, being the glue-sniffing ball of chaos that he is, immediately tries to blow up Earth while he's standing on it. Goku goes in and deflects the attack and tackles Kid Buu and teleports him to Supreme Kai's planet. This forces Gohan and Vegeta to fly back to the lookout and tell Supreme Kai what happened. King Kai tells Supreme Kai that they went to the Kai world, so Supreme Kai takes Gohan and Vegeta there too, so they can make sure Goku wins that fight. When they get there, they see Goku in his Super Saiyan 3 form beating the dog piss out of Kid Buu, but Kid Buu keeps regenerating. So, with the last of his Super Saiyan 3 energy, Goku unleashes this massive punch that explodes Kid Buu's body, briefly forming like a proto-Dragon Fist visual as a sort of homage to the fact that he hasn't quite figured that move out yet, but this is where he starts thinking about it. Goku punches Kid Buu so hard that he literally explodes into a million different pieces. But immediately after that, Goku's just done. He collapses and just hits the ground. He's out. Seizing the moment, Gohan powers up and fires this massive point-blank Kamehameha. I want a moment for Gohan to redeem himself in the Buu saga because he just takes L's left and right in that saga. Gohan's not so much stealing the kill as he is making sure that Kid Buu stays down after Goku basically wins that fight, if not for Buu's cheesy-ass regeneration. Vegeta also gets his moment of growth, standing beside Gohan and acknowledging just how great Goku actually is as a fighter and witnessing him push beyond his limits to take down Kid Buu. With that, the world is safe once more. if only for a little while. So in the aftermath of the battle with Buu, the Z Fighters, having learned how powerful fusion is, want it on tap as a last resort. However, when Goku goes to ask King Kai if the Supreme Kai can provide them with more Potara earrings, there's probably some logistical issues with that. Potara earrings seem to be relatively rare and hard to make because there's not many of them floating around. So I can see King Kai suggesting Goku to go talk to the Metamorans, and that some Metamorans would be competing in an upcoming Otherworld tournament, so he could learn it from them. So Goku would obviously compete in this event and then bring that technique back to teach everybody after the Buu Saga. That aside, while I would like to cover Daima, it's kind of its own thing because Dragon Ball Daima doesn't fit on the timeline and it screws a lot of stuff up for Super. So I'll do my own video on that later. So now with the Buu Saga covered, we can get into the next part of Dragon Ball that has some major changes. Next time. As you can see, we've already passed the 20-minute mark and I haven't even talked about Dragon Ball Super yet. But not to worry, you're not going to be waiting for the next video for a month. This original project got so long that I had to cut it in half, so good news, I'm pretty much 3/4 of the way done with the next part of the video. The bad news is that I had to cut this one short, but not to worry, I will be back much sooner than usual. So, until then, I hope to see you all next time, whenever that is.